Two. The question now is let part 1 stand part. All those in favour please say aye. Aye. Contrary no. The ayes have it. The question now is at part 2, and this is debate on clauses 11 through to 18 stand part. I call the Honourable Member Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Part 2 relates to amendments relating to offences, regulations and purposes. Of course, we've brought in a whole range of new regulations in Part 1. Now we have the offences that are brought in for breaking those regulations. Clause 12 creates an offence where a person without reasonable excuse allows a tobacco product, tobacco package or tobacco carton to be visible in contravention with new Section 23A, display of tobacco products. A person who commits such an offence is liable to a fine not exceeding $10,000. Now, we heard a range of submissions from submitters about where they thought this fine level should be at. Obviously, some people thought it should be very low. Others thought it should be extremely high. And in fact, I think actually that the Select Committee actually went for something that was really at the higher end. And I think that's an important move to actually show just how seriously this breaching the tobacco display ban will actually be taken. So the incentive is certainly there for retailers to ensure that they get it right, that they make sure they don't breach the ban, and that nobody who goes into a store will see any tobacco products on display. Because I think it would be pretty easy to find out someone who had been breaching that ban, and the penalties are, to say the least, quite significant. Certainly for a small business person, $10,000, I should imagine, for someone who owns a dairy would be a very significant penalty. So that is quite clear, and hopefully nobody will be tempted to breach the ban given that the penalties are so severe. Many submitters supported increasing the maximum fine for a sale to someone under the age of 18 from $2,000 to $10,000, and again that's understandable because there's nothing worse really, I think, than a retailer selling tobacco products, selling cigarettes to someone who is under the age of 18, because that is, we know young people between that age of sort of between really as young as 9 through to 18, that's when they really are at their most vulnerable, and that is when, to be honest, most people actually take up the smoking habit. So many submitters were very, very keen that we take a much stronger stance on people who supply tobacco products to people who are underage. Several of the tobacco and industry retailer groupings suggested it was wrong to focus on increasing penalties when what was required was better retailer education, compliance visits and enforcement of the current law. Well, this is always the bastion, I think, of those who are opposed to regulation. They always say education is the answer. Well, I agree that retailers probably do need to be educated about what the current law, what the new law will say, what the new penalties will be, but that education has to go hand in hand with a real incentive to stop retailers from being tempted to breach the new regulations that this bill brings in. So that clearly the Select Committee did not agree with the tobacco industry on much, really, to be fair, but on this suggestion as well that there was no need to increase fines or to bring in a large fine for people who break the display ban. The Ministry of Health advice was to establish 2 different penalties for sales to under 18s, a fine not exceeding $10,000 in the case of the seller who is a body corporate, and a fine not exceeding $5,000 for a seller who is not a body corporate. The Ministry of Justice advised that it may be more appropriate to have a lower penalty for a person who is not a body corporate. And I suppose that's understandable if you're a sole operator. Perhaps you don't have the means to address such a large fine. But some comparisons were made in the Alcohol Reform Bill. The penalty for sale of alcohol to a minor by a person who is not a licensee or a manager is liable for a fine not exceeding $2,000, and for a licensee or manager the fine must not exceed $10,000. So a lower fine for someone who is not the owner of the business, someone who is simply working in the business.
Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable Member Dr. Jackie Blue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased